gotten so tough because at this time I was homeless too. Like that's the part I didn't say. I was homeless. Somebody had let us stay with her while we were waiting for a shelter opening
Mm.
happen because there was this super long wait list. So I
Right.
had no family around. I'm homeless. I got this infant toddler kid. I'm like
Oh,
putting in work just to try to get to some amount where I can like really see a profit, right?
right.
Because I'm working these 50-hour weeks, and after I pay for the childcare and pay for just gas to get back and forth and car insurance, like I'm saying like maybe $400 a month, you
Mm.
know. And this doesn't include food, nothing. so so that was I was like, I can't afford to risk my kids' safety. It got to a point where I was like just randomly posting on my Facebook page to see if I was connected to anybody in my city that could babysit my kid
Oh,
Mm.
because I'm
wow.
not getting paid on time. So if I'm not getting paid on time, like I'm randomly having to play catch up with payments to whoever's babysitting my kid, and it's like you can only be so understanding. Like I'm going to work every day. It's hard to believe that I'm not seeing the checks when I'm supposed to
Right.
get to see the check. Sound like
Right.
I'm just trying to, harbor the money,
Right.
and it's like, so it turned to a mess. I quit. I filed for unemployment. They tried to contest it. And this is why I say faith is such a powerful thing, right? They tried to contest it. They said I was late like twice or something like that, which was not true. I was
Oh,
working like 3 to 6 hours past my actual shift on a daily. And so when we got on the phone with unemployment to talk to the like lawyers, like it's labor lawyers that
mm.
listen to the little dispute trials or whatever, the supervisors of that job, they're supposed to be there to kind of like advocate for me not to get unemployment. And they're praising me. They're praising how
Wow.
hard working I was, how like amazing I was, how many hours I put in. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the conversation. And I think the lawyer is like,
God's
hell am
will.
I here for? Like what was the problem? Right.
Right.
And then between that and me saying I never got my checks on time, the lawyer was like, oh, it's turned over and I got a lump sum. And what did I do? I went to go form my first LLC.
Mm.
I I started at that point. I'm homeless, right? But I'm
Right.
hiring people to work from home. So the irony of this was like so amazing, right? So I'm really excited because I know about the opportunity. I'm just like I'm not in a position where I can hire people.
Mm.
So I end up hiring all these people. Majority of the people I'm hiring to work from home are old enough to be my parents, my grandparents,
Right.
doing career change stuff. And so the amazing part is I'm like bringing all these people on, but I'm making very little, right?
Right.
Mm.
So I'm giving you these opportunities to be able to work and all this stuff and have all this control of your schedule, but I'm
Right.
making like somewhere around like maybe $100 off of an employee,
Wow.
right? And not even I'm lying. I want to say $50
Mm.
because overhead ate half of that. So the overhead for payroll and bank accounts and business structuring and systems ate half of that for me, right? So I want to say I brought on all these people and I was still only somewhere around like maybe $500 a month,
Oh
right?
my
Which is
God.
pretty much how much I was making at that job. But
Right.
I'm
Mhm.
doing it from
Right.
home and I'm catching up with my daughter and yada yada yada. And so what ends up happening is um I'm like, I'm gonna figure out how to make this 500 work. And so I find somebody who's willing to let me rent 2 rooms from her house
Mm.
for $500. And so she does that, and literally, as soon as I move in, I set up phone, I set up internet. Despite being homeless, all this stuff, there were like 4 things that I kept with me this whole time. Like my
Right.
first netbook from undergrad, a
Right.
computer that I bought. No, I guess I bought it when I came to North Carolina. I don't know. A book bag full of like all my writings and my kids stuff. Right.
Right.
This is all I move in with. Like, and so I get the computer out of whatever money I had held, who knows where it came from. I buy a headset and I'm going to town working. Like my kid is upstairs self-entertaining in her room, and I just go to town working and I grind it out. And then after a while, there was this, I end up with this email from this, and this is a whole different story, but I end up with this email from this person extending me the option to do an event for them. And this event is paying ultimately for like the week long event. They're paying me like almost $2,000. And that was one of those eye-opening situations, right? It's its own situation where I had been exposed to it before, but I thought it was just like this miracle one and done situation. No, it's a whole industry. I'm
Right.
realizing that there's a whole industry that exists that allows for you to make ridiculous amounts of money having fun, right? Because I'm having hella fun at amazing events, engaging with people, representing major brands, and just walking away with a whole lot of dope stuff, right? Because not only did I make like $2,000 off this week long event, I got tickets to go to the state fair. I got like these VIP parking passes. You know what I'm saying? I got some vouchers for some stuff. So it's like, so it turned into a situation where I worked my ass off for a week, and then I brought my kid to come have all this fun where all the other kids are having fun. So it turned into now an opportunity where I got to get a lot of weight off my shoulder. So not only can I now afford to pay like 2-3 months rent in advance, I can afford to have freedom to be like, all right, what do I want to work on? What do I want to do? Like, how do I want to move next? Like, that was the other thing. That just this 1 week long thing came. And so from there, I realized that was the industry, and I'm like, yo, these are the two industries that everybody needs to know about. Like, this one is going to be for the real traditional people. This is going to be for those people that know how to hustle, but they know how to hustle wise, right? And so these two together, I was like, this changes everything. It's a whole lot of people bootstrapping it or feeling like they got to do drugs or got to hustle or got to rob people or whatever just to get by. Like, nah, this is it, right? And then from there, I had enough money where it was like, all right, I want to go on a vacation. And so that's, of course, how do you pay for vacation? Everybody's quick to do it on somebody's credit card.
Right.
And so I got the credit card, got this one little random credit card, right? And the more started to come to me. It was weird. It was like, all right, I'm taking my kid on a cruise. Like, I got $3,500. I ain't never seen this before. I'm taking my kid on a cruise, And so then that trial and error process taught me something. It was like, no, $35 is not that amount of money, but it was a humbling situation because $3,300 is what made me get evicted, right? So it's like a $3,500 card would allow for me to change the reality of my kid. That $3,500 card is what triggered that Canada trip that I took my kid on, right? Because one of the companies I represented during the customer service from home was a cruise line.
Right.
So the cruise line gave me this inside track to like take this amazing vacation for like $400.
Wow.
So $3,500, I made it, mama. Like, ooh, we about to go ham. Like, we go to the country, but in the midst of that, right, I realized on that cruise that, like, man, it's so much stuff I like to spend money on. I really need to make more of this.
Right.
And so my trial and error with that credit card ended up making me realize, yo, you can fix it. Like, I randomly met somebody to tell me about credit. He was like, oh, you can fix it. He said, I can make that disappear. How you making all my bad spending habits disappear? You know what I'm saying? And then that was the ultimate aha moment. Oh, that's how they move. That's how they make these businesses work the way these businesses work. Like, oh, and once I learned that I think that was the final missing piece. It was like between this opportunity, and this information, it took all of that and it transformed and warped it in a way where it was like, there's no glass ceiling anymore. I no longer need to seek people's permission.
That's right.
Or seek opportunities and hope that somebody gives me the time of day.
That's right.
And once I realized that, I said, young, so if I'm just learning this and I felt like I was connected to people that knew stuff, I said, I can only imagine how many other people don't know what they don't know. They have never gone anywhere, that have never left their environment, that doesn't know anybody outside of them people from down the block or that they went to school with or to be hanging out at the corner store or stuff like that. I said, it's amazing, you know, to be well traveled as I was and have suffered through so much of it because I didn't know what I didn't know in the midst of all of that going on. To
Mm-hmm.
know how many holes in the makeup of my reality were made from the ignorance, not willful ignorance, just ignorance of not knowing, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And it was just like that we suffering because people are being selfish with information.
Right. Right.
Suffering because people want to profit off the back of you appreciate wanting to glamorize them. And I was just like,
Right.
it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Not. And it's like, and we as it's like it. What I get from that whole story that you told, and it was eloquently put, and it's a success story. You finally recognized your exceptionality. You understand? And that as Black people, we have to understand we are exceptional people. You know what I mean? And like you said, you know, that's how the world is. They are holding back information from us. You know what I mean? When you know what? We have to go and seek the information. You understand? And you know what? At the end of the day, we got to take the information and sometimes create our own information.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? You know, and what you said earlier, you was like, you know, I ain't waiting for nobody no more. I don't need permission no more. That's somebody that knows that they're exceptional, knows that they have a skill that is lucrative and profitable. That person is not going to be stopped. There's no way you can stop. You know why? Because you've already made it up in your mind that you will be a success.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? After you make it, like, you know, it's like making a movie. You know what I mean? If I think about a movie and what I want it to be about, you know what I mean? That's like 85% of the hard work, the thought of the movie. Actually doing the work, that's the fun part. You know what I mean? I think, you know, a lot of us think it's the other way around. You know what I'm saying? They think, you know, that's the hard, you know, that's the fun part. No, the hard part is making your mind like, you know what? I'm going to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That person is not going to be stopped. They're going to succeed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Portia?
That the biggest part of that story was the fact that
Portia?
you really didn't know. Like you could tell, like from the beginning, you know what I mean? Like right when you were in that job that was like messed up, and then when you got your unemployment, it's like you started making moves, but it was because you were learning along the way. Like even me, like right now, it's like I'm still in the beginning stages of running my own business. And there is so much I don't know, but I know I don't know stuff because like when I look at the bigger picture and it's like, okay, how do I get from where I am now to where I want to be? I don't really know. I'm just at this point, I'm winging it because I don't know what I don't know, but I can see the holes. I'm like, there's a lot of missing information here. I don't know if I need to talk to a tax expert or a financial advisor or hire an accountant. I don't know what I need to do, but I know there's a lot of missing information there. And I kind of need to fill those blanks.
Right.
And so, like, you look at so many businesses, they say businesses fail within the first what? How
5 years.
5
So
years. Okay, 5 years.
5 years.
Businesses fail within the first 5 years. Why is that? When you like people really will put in and hustle, but all that hustle will be for no good when you'll get yourself off the ground, but then you'll fall because you don't know what you don't know. Like that, somebody put that on a shirt for me so I can wear that because you don't know what you don't know, and it's those
You
things.
gonna put it on the shirt. You gonna put it
on a shirt. Yes.
That's what you gonna
It's
do.
real. Like it's just so real, especially for me. And it's just like, you don't know something because it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like when I hear about business owners reaching their success, it's like, yeah, but like, how did you get there? And that's what nobody really tells. They're like, oh yeah, well, I did this and I did that. Okay, but there's a lot of holes there. And so if I try to follow your path, I'm gonna fall in those holes.
Right.
It did not lay out for me.
I want to say I would equate it to an old Nigerian grandma's recipe. Okay. So when they give you their recipe, they don't give you that one thing to make you show up at grandma's house for every event. You know she's cooking it. They give you all of the other stuff, the stuff that'll make it look similar, smell around the same, even have the same type of texture, but that thing that you be like, this ain't grandma's. Like that one part of the recipe that you gotta inherit. You know what I'm saying? In the wheel, like that. It's like that with a lot of businesses, and I will say that a part of that is because there is this thing that a lot of people are trained to internalize, where it's like anybody that can exist in your industry ultimately automatically becomes your competition, right? And the problem is a lot of people they're so worried about impacting their market share that they don't want it to become saturated.
Right.
So they say just enough for you to connect with them and maybe even try to duplicate it, right? But not enough to see you win. Meanwhile, our logic, I want to say my whole team's logic, because I learned something. First person I'm on the phone with is my cousin, and I'm like, all right, so look, I learned it this way now. We need to figure out how to implement this, and he's the exact same way. It don't matter how tedious it is. Like last time, one of the first times he came down here and met my spouse, he came down here with a book bag full of books about like different stuff. And my spouse was looking at him, right? Because this one cousin, he looks nothing like how he is, right? If you cross paths with him and you don't know, you're like, man, I might have to cut him. I have to shoot him. Yeah, this conversation go the wrong way, you know. So it's like almost an intimidation. But meanwhile, you know, the funny part about it is when me and him started to talk, we started to talk finance, right? We're having a whole conversation about finance together. And despite the fact that I've been talking about these things for months with my spouse, my cousin says it insinuates or it triggers a desire to learn by my spouse for him to like, yeah, I heard him talking about, I've been talking to you about this same thing, you know. But the amazing part about it, out of all of that, is like now we all have the ability to meet people where the power in this is, okay, he was able to reach you, but I couldn't reach you. And so the power of you now knowing it, me now knowing it, and him now knowing it, yeah, we can meet people at 3 different places and effectively allow for the transition to happen, because people, the way I speak may not resonate with you. The way I word things may not be the way you can receive it, you know, or it may sound like almost white noise to you, but them two, one of them two gonna hit it exactly how you need to hear it for you to be like, for real, young? That's what I was thinking about. Like I've had my cousin, the same cousin, randomly, we're on the phone somewhere, you know, and he crossed paths with somebody that's doing something that may be frowned upon. And we somehow make that into a business networking opportunity, because we're like, that's exactly what we're looking for. And you're probably a better plug than the resource we were going to go with. But because of how they talk to each other, we now have contact information. We now got a direct point of reference. We now can find out exactly what we need the way we need it, because he could meet that person where they were. And they could have that conversation in a way where it's receptive and it's not coming off like, oh, he might be fids or this might be a setup, you know. Meanwhile, I would have said it probably would have been like, what you want? Like, what you mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know if my spouse would have said it, it definitely would have been like, let me clean up real quick. You know what I'm saying? So it's like meeting people where they are, but guess what? It all leads to the exact same goal being accomplished. And it now allows for these moving pieces to be filled in by whoever can do it best and most effectively, versus who I can get to meet me where I am, or I can meet them where they are to do it effectively. When you're focused on the goal, sometimes the moving pieces won't always look how you picture them.
That's right.
But how important is the goal versus the moving pieces to you? Does it have to be picture perfect, or does it have to be effective?
Right.
And that's the difference for us. It's like what we say we genuinely believe in, and it requires a lot more on our part to overcompensate for the fact that this is the goal, and no matter what, this is gonna be the goal. And we gotta all be willing to do our parts to see it come to fruition, because like you said, back when we were talking about the state crabs, you know, it's cool to be able to bring everybody to your table to eat,
Right.
but there's power in making sure everybody can eat on their own.
Hey.
That takes the target off your back and now builds a collective that can be a barrier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Rama, can you speak about you know, off camera you was speaking about changing the narrative of starting from the bottom and then now we're here. You know what I mean? I want you to speak about that and how can we change that narrative? Like what's the process and the procedure of changing that narrative?
So, all right, I'm gonna tell y'all what has been triggering it the most for me lately.
Okay.
Right? Trump became president.
Right.
It don't matter how we feel about him.
Right.
A lot of people have dragged the fact that Trump is like a 6-time bankrupt individual.
Right.
And it's like, true. Now, based on what we have experienced in our communities with somebody going bankrupt once, you just wipe your hands and they'll prepare for them to stay on grandma's couch for the next 10 plus years, you know?
Right.
Nobody has, instead of being like, he bankrupt 6 times, and as a ridicule or whatever, nobody's saying, how this man a millionaire and bankrupt 6 times? You get what I'm saying? Like, that's the question to have. Like, it's like you can feel however you want about him, but nobody's wondering.
Right.
Bankrupt normally mean you ain't got a pot to piss in for an extended period of time. How he managed to do that 10 times? He only 70. So even if he bankrupted every 10 years, he would have had to start as a kid. You get what I'm saying? To effectively do that, to reset, to become a millionaire.
Right about that.
Nobody's asking that question though. And so for us, it's like, instead of having like, look, we have been trained to even, we ain't got to have a cent to our name, but we got 2 cents to speak on something. We have been trained to do that. But the difference is, it's like, well, maybe instead of us finding that as the point of ridicule, it can be the point of research.
That's right.
Because it's like, if he could do it, goddamn, I done only got evicted once. I should be able to bounce back from that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that wasn't even a full bankruptcy. Like, money was still in the checking account. Like, I only overdraft one account a couple of times. Like, if he could become a millionaire, I'm not asking the right questions. Like, you know, and then to be able to do this super completely uncharted territory, no point of reference, no valid reason to be in politics, but able to make that transition, those should be triggering questions for us. Well, how do we pivot, right? Because that's really what that is. How do we make pivots like that when none of that has been normalized as the keys to success? Like, we told to bootstrap it, like hustle. Well, he ain't hustle for that one. He ain't go through none of the steps that they told us you had to go through to reach that level of political success. So what like expedited, you know, fast track type situation was that allowed that to happen? And our goal is to ultimately put us in a place where we are thinking that, right? We don't know what we don't know. But if you got a question, if you got the right questions to ask, Siri will answer properly. You understand? Like, she is not all-knowing, omniscient. She can't answer the super generic out there, but she can give you thorough responses to specific questions. How do you go bankrupt and still have the ability to be a millionaire?